Hi, I'm Jenny Garrett. I'm an executive coach and I'm an author and a leadership trainer. In terms of smashing limiting beliefs, I think I've had to smash many. It took me 5 times to pass my driving test. I used to be absolutely petrified of public speaking. I couldn't articulate my words, my knees were knocking, and now I speak publicly in front of large groups on a daily basis. So I've had to smash many limiting beliefs, and my most recent was running the Great North Run, and being someone who would say I'm not a runner. So I've done a lot of it, and it's been an amazing challenge, and I keep challenging myself on a daily basis.
Brilliant. Can you just come a little bit closer to me? I know just because she's quite far, but I'm quite far. Cool, crack on.
Okay, great. That's brilliant. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you're hoping people will get out of today's session?
Yes. Out of today's session, I hope people will go away with renewed confidence, with an actual attitude and an aspiration for taking risks. And I'd like them to want to experiment, to come away with something that they're going to try that's different, that's going to take them right out of their comfort zone.
Well, you've done this before.
Yes. Yeah.
Usually we have to do a lot of Okay, and finally,
someone coming in.
So can we just wait just 1 minute, thank you. And finally, if you could end with 3 top tips for women.
Okay.
Okay.
My 3 top tips for smashing your limiting beliefs are: first, blow them up. Blow them up out of all proportion, all of those things that you're scared of. You know, if it's something about, if you're scared of public speaking, then actually what if you fell off the stage? What if your skirt fell down? You know, what if the worst happened? And realise that the worst won't happen. So first, blow it up out of all proportion. The second is just do it. Just go for it, as the Nike adverts say. You know, that's the only way you know and the only way you learn. Yeah, if you're successful, you'll learn something. If you fail, you'll learn something. So either way, it will be fantastic. And my third is confidence comes after the act. So don't wait, okay? Don't wait for it. Don't wait to be smarter, slimmer, have more knowledge. Just do it and go for it and enjoy. Really great to be here, and we're going to talk smashing limiting beliefs. So I don't know, I haven't smashed anything lately personally. It doesn't normally feel like a good thing when you smash something, unless, if I remember my hen night, we went to a Greek restaurant and smashed lots of plates, and that was lots of fun. So it can be therapeutic, can't it, to smash things. It was really great that you mentioned some of my accolades, and it's really lovely to think about your successes. When someone introduces you like that, you always think, who are they talking about? Is there someone else behind me? But I have been really lucky. I had some success and had lots of media attention and won awards, and that's been amazing. But I've also had lots of failure. You know, I have failed. I stand here a failure. Guess how many times it took me to pass my driving test?
3, 4,
5. 10. Oh my God. Yeah, 5 times I had to persevere for the 5th time to pass my driving test. And also, you know, I public speak a lot now, but actually I was a nervous wreck. I was a terrible public speaker. My knees would be shaking, my mouth would get dry, I wouldn't be able to articulate my words. So that's something that I've had to overcome, and I failed in front of people many times at public speaking before I became comfortable and confident at it. And, you know, thinking about yourselves and the situations you might be in, I also haven't always got the job I wanted. You know, there have been job interviews that I went for when I wasn't the successful candidate, and you know, it's really disappointing. And you know, when you really put your heart and soul into something, and you want to get a role, and you're the person not picked. But the failure doesn't make me a failure. Although I said I stand here a failure, the failure I think has led to success and taken me in different directions. And so this thing about smashing limiting beliefs, I think the first thing you need to do is embrace failure as completely part of that journey to where you want to go, and not try and avoid it. Because I think once you try to avoid failure, then you avoid everything. You avoid trying, you avoid really pushing yourself to do anything. So I want us to do something, first of all. I don't know if you've got pen. I think you've all got a pen, haven't you? I'd like you to get a pen, and I'd like you to point at the ceiling. this very beautiful chandelier we've got here, but you don't have to point at the chandelier. And I want you to look up at the ceiling, and I'd like you to draw a large clockwise circle. Yeah? So just a large clockwise circle. And when you've got that large clockwise circle clear, I'd like you to slowly bring your pen down, keeping that large clockwise circle until the pen is just below your waist, if possible. Okay? Is everyone doing that? No, you're supposed to keep looking at the pen. Oh. Sorry, you were looking there. So watch me do it first. Large clockwise circle, and then you bring it down until it's just below your waist. Yeah? So I'd like you all to do that.
We both have exactly the same thing.
Okay?
We have a clockwise issue.
That's fine, that's fine. So many challenges in life, aren't there? I want you to tell me, when you look down at it, which way your pen is going. Anti-clockwise. So you didn't. So tell me, what's that about? Why has that happened?
Habit.
Habit? Not quite habit. What else? Pardon?
It's a change of perspective.
Perspective, exactly. Changing perspective. When we look up, it's clockwise. When we look down at it, it's anti-clockwise. And it just happens because we're looking at it from a different direction. You didn't get it wrong. Your pen's not broken. Don't worry. It wasn't a major test. It's not going on your appraisals. It's all okay. So the fact about that is that this is what it's all about. You know, all the stuff you've been reading, all the work you've done in advance of today is all about a change in perspective, isn't it? It's about looking at your successes differently, looking at failures differently, noticing your strengths, really working out who you are and how you can move forward. And I want you to hold that thought in your mind of this circle. The fact is that every situation that you come across, when we're thinking about those limiting beliefs, we can take a brand new perspective on it and see it very, very differently. So I want to talk about a little study that I got involved in last year. I worked with Nivea, the skincare brand, and we did this study of 2,700 women who were 18 to 30-year-olds. And we looked at their attitudes to celebrity, to career, to relationships, just to everything really, just to see what they thought. And a few things came up. The first was quite a percentage of them felt that the career ladder was out of date. And they were actually using technology to move themselves forward in their career. So they were doing things like using social media, blogging, videos to become much more visible in order to move themselves forward and really take giant leaps. And you know, in your sort of positions, it might not be, you might not want to create videos, but you might get an article published, or you might go for an award, or something like that. That means you can take a few steps up the ladder in a much quicker way. They thought we could ditch labels, and I don't know what you feel about Caitlyn Jenner, but the fact is the titles of wife or girlfriend or whatever the job titles were not so important. And maybe the role, you know, the job titles in the workplace are not so important anymore. It might be more important about what you're doing and what you get involved in and what gives you fulfillment. In addition, they also said success can come at any age. And I think that's really liberating. So it doesn't matter how young or how old you are. The fact is that you can be successful now. And lastly, qualifications are no guarantee of success. They are helpful, no, there's no doubt about that. But there's so much more to it than being qualified. And I think going through this course is probably teaching you that a lot of it is about attitude, isn't it? It's about behaviour. It's about the way you think about yourself. What this research showed is that actually young women are actually more confident than ever before, which is great, but there is still something missing. And for me, there's a lot of work about mindset. There's a lot of work around our self-talk, what we say to ourselves, how we hold ourselves back, which is stopping us from getting to the next level. Did anyone do cross-country at school? Cross-country running? Is anyone a runner now? Anyone? No runners in the room? One? Yeah? What, are you big runners or?
Sort of, yeah, I did a triathlon a little while.
Amazing, brilliant, brilliant. So I was this girl at school. I wasn't last, but I was the person before last. I was always absolutely useless at cross country. I also used to come out in a cold sweat as soon as they mentioned cross country running, and I was just really poor, and I don't actually know why. The person who was behind me, who was always last, had a health problem. I didn't have any health problems, but I just couldn't run. I just couldn't breathe. As soon as I started running, I was out of breath, and I just used to dread it. I used to just, it was a thing I just thought, I don't want to do this. Please don't put me through it. So recently I got an email about 3 months ago from an organisation I do some work with, and they said, we want people to volunteer to do the Great North Run. If you want to volunteer to be part of our team, we want to raise a lot of money for cancer research, put your name forward. And with my history of being really poor at running, the fact that I wasn't fit at the time, and the fact that if anyone ever mentioned running, your triathlon or that sort of thing, I'd just say I'm not a runner, don't know how you do it. I sent an email back saying, yes, I'll do it. Hoping maybe that they probably wouldn't accept me, but they did. And I suddenly thought, I've got 3 months to be able to do the Great North Run, which is, I don't know if you know, 21 kilometres, 13.1 miles. And I don't run. I don't like running, and I can't run. And I had all those voices, you're going to be last. This time there won't be anyone with health problems behind you. You'll just be the last person. So I thought, oh gosh, what do I do? What do I do? And I thought, how have I smashed limiting beliefs before? How have I overcome things when I have challenges? And I came up with my 5 steps. The first is use the Y word. What do you think that is? Yes. Just say yes. Don't worry about how you're going to do it or if you're going to do it. Just say yes, because once you've said yes, you have to do it, don't you? Second is blow it up. Find the evidence, expose yourself, oppose it, and risk it. And I'm going to go into more detail about those. So I said yes. And I've said yes over and over again to things that I have no idea what to do. When I wrote a book, I had no idea how to write a book or whether I could write a book, but I did. And I kind of publicly declared it. So as soon as I say yes, I tell everyone that I'm going to do it. And I don't tell people who hate me, but I tell my safe, friends, the people who care about me, that I'm going to do it because I know they'll encourage me and I know they'll ask. And I don't want to be the person that they ask and I say, oh, I didn't do it. I kind of gave up, oh yeah, I've put that in a bottom drawer. I told my supporters. So I say yes, and then I publicly declare what I'm going to do to hold me accountable. Because actually, something about women is that it's really easy to break promises to ourselves, but not so easy to break promises for other people. So as soon as I've promised it to the world, I have to deliver. Next, I blew it up. I love this quote from Halle Berry. What's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't do well, I can put on my big girl panties, deal with it, and move on. When I say blow it up, I mean blow it up out of all proportion. What is the absolute worst that can happen? And I did imagine it. It was, coming last, or taking 2 days to do a marathon that probably should take 3 hours. Or it was actually, I'm going to be the person whose elastic goes in my shorts, and it's going to be published on, BBC, because it was actually televised this year. I just thought, what are the absolute worst things that can happen? Oh, I start, and within a few minutes, I've run out of breath. And I thought, realistically, these things probably won't happen. The worst won't happen. Actually. And I think just starting off with blowing it completely out of proportion is a really good thing to do, because you just think, it's so unlikely that those things were going to happen. Maybe I should give it a try. The next thing to do is find the evidence. And that's kind of finding the evidence to the contrary. So I started thinking, well, I said I'm not a runner, I'm not fit, I can't run. And I started thinking, well, occasionally I run for the bus, occasionally I run for the train. I'm physically able to run. I have been to the gym. I have done a 5K race for life, even though I did walk most of it. So there's evidence that actually contradicted myself a little bit. Am I capable of running? Well, I probably could if I put my mind to it. So I started finding evidence that disputed my belief of myself in order to smash my limiting beliefs. The next thing I did was start to expose myself to the idea of being a runner. So I went into the sports shop, bought some trainers, bought all of the gear and thought, well, I've got the outfit now. And I also just started telling people I'm going to start. This is when I'm going to start, and I'll let you know about my first run. So I kind of set myself up to be exposed to this running arena. And I also then started once I had started running and felt confident enough that I could run around the block and not pass out, I did start signing myself up for weekend runs. So I was around other people who run, and around the sort of people who are successful at it, whether or not I was going to be. So I started really exposing myself to the environment in which I wanted to belong, and the sort of people who could be role models for me and were successful at doing the thing that I wanted to be able to do. Then I thought I need to oppose myself, and that's kind of how do you contradict? How do you contradict your views of who you are? So even though I started doing all of those things, when people asked me, I still said, yeah, I'm not a runner. You know, I don't run. You know, who knows, I'm going to actually do this race. And I started actually having the argument back with myself. Well, you must be a runner. You did a 10K at the weekend. You must be a runner. You have your trainers beside your bed. So I started actually opposing myself, and actually, you know, it sounds a little bit, like I had a problem with like arguing with myself, but you start to oppose your own views. And lastly, I had to risk it, didn't I? You know, I had signed up, I was raising money for charity, so I just had to go for it. Was I confident by the time I got to the Great North Run? No, I still wasn't confident. I didn't know if I could complete it. I'd never run that far. I didn't know if I had done enough training, if I was fit enough, any of those things. And I'd never done anything like it before. So there's something about not expecting to be confident that is helpful. Yeah? When you're smashing your limiting beliefs, you cannot wait for confidence. And this is part of my journey. Me out of breath, me trying runs, and me finally, on Sunday, completing the Great North Run. Not in the fastest time possible, but definitely completing it and running 21K by a girl who couldn't do her cross countries. So for me, these are the ways that you actually practically can break your limiting beliefs. The most important message from me is confidence comes after action. It doesn't come before it. You really cannot wait to be confident before you do anything, because you won't be. The only way now I can tell you confidently that I can run 21K is because I've done it. And as I said, minutes before the race, I still didn't know. So in terms of smashing your beliefs, you really have to take action. We're going to talk about it. You know, I've seen all of the research and all of the information you've got. And you've got some information there from Sue Jeffers, who says, feel the fear and do it anyway. You know, these are the important things you have to do. And use each other to support that, to push each other forward, because there's absolutely no way that you can do it on your own. Thank you. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, if you want to go straight into the group.
Let's pick up some questions and then we can move into the group.
Yeah.
So, any questions for Jenny?
I don't know anything about your company.
Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So I've been running a coaching and leadership consultancy for the last 10 years. Before that, I worked in corporate organizations in marketing. And actually, I came to coaching from a colleague who was a really good friend, who's now a really good friend. And she came into my office one day and she said, where next? You're as far as you can go in this organisation. She said, you need to get a bigger team elsewhere, or something with a bigger budget. And at the time, my daughter was very small, and I didn't want to leave where I was. So she said to me, okay, you don't want to move. Maybe you should start training people in marketing, because it was a business school, my last organisation. And as I said, I was a very nervous public speaker. So I said, no, I could never ever do that. And then she said, what about coaching? Faculty come into your office every day, they come away with actions, they come away motivated, you're a really good listener. Maybe you should develop your coaching skills. So I thought, oh, I could do that. I actually like attending courses, I like developing myself. You know, if nothing comes of it, I'll have something else on my CV. To this day, I don't know if she was just flattering me, because I had an L-shaped office, and people used to come in to hide quite a lot. So I'm not completely sure exactly what they were doing, but I thought, okay, I'll go on this course. I found the course really personally and professionally transformational. It sort of unpacked who I was and what I was about. It made me think, think about myself and think about the importance of what I was doing. My poor husband had to put up with me coming back from these courses saying, darling, let's unpack a few things, let's think, but he didn't leave me, luckily. And my organisation let me start to coach a bit on some of their leadership programs when I got back to the office, which was wonderful. But I had some coaching myself and realised that I wanted to coach. I wanted that to be the thing I did, and it was never going to be a full-time role where I was, and it was always going to be something that you did freelance or as a business. So with my coach, I hatched a plan to go down to 4 days a week employed, and on the 5th day build my coaching business. And I set myself a target. And within a year I was freelance, and as I said, that was over 10 years ago now, and it's really grown from one-to-one coaching to leadership development as well. And then about 3 years ago I wrote my book, Rocking Your Role, the guide to success for women who are the main earner in their home. And that was really quite personal. When I started my own business, my salary jumped, and my husband, who'd been an accountant, decided to work with disaffected young people, and his salary went right down. So on paper, that doesn't look like it's a problem, but actually it was in some ways, because we hadn't talked about it. And I read an article by a woman called Rebecca Messenbeck in Australia, and realised actually there were lots of things that we just hadn't discussed. When you go into a restaurant, and the waiter always still gives the man the bill, doesn't he? And it's, what do? Do you slide the credit card under the table? Do you make a joke out of it, say you're paying today? Those sorts of little things can really niggle away. And also, I think I got a bit big-headed. I was, I was making a lot of decisions in the home without really consulting my husband, because it was my money. So I realised that there were some things that I wasn't doing quite right, and some things we hadn't discussed, and started doing research about the role of women being the breadwinner. And what really made me write the book was a woman in America. She actually sent back a message to me. I said, are you the breadwinner, and how do you feel about it? And she sent back a message to me, and she said, I was the breadwinner for 3 years, and those were dark days in my life. And I thought, no one should feel like that. So I did some research, produced some case studies, combined it with my coaching experience, and brought this book together. And as a result of writing the book, I started producing quite a lot for women in terms of speaking and programs and training and coaching about being the breadwinner, but more about just juggling work and life and crafting the life you want. So that's what I'm about. Yeah.
Sorry, you spoke at the beginning about, because a lot of people struggle with public speaking. No one really loves it. You're obviously very proficient at it now. So how did you get better at that?
Yeah, there's a number of things that help me be better at public speaking. I think the most important thing is to talk about something you care about. I think when you feel very, very connected and you feel that the audience will benefit, that's really useful. And the other thing, if I think about a tip that I got, was not to think about myself, to think about the audience. Because I think when you think about yourself, that's when you get really nervous and you're thinking, oh, what do I look like, or what am I saying? So you don't concentrate on that. Concentrate on, what's really useful, what's the best information that I can give, how can that help someone? So I think when you move the focus from you to the audience, I think that really helps you move forward. And I think apart from caring what you're talking about, just having practiced and know what you want to say, so that actually if your mind does switch off, it might come out in autopilot anyway. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. You showed us a great story of smashing the lease successfully in the running. You also talked about failure, and obviously you've had failure, and part of smashing the lease and failing. What, for example, could you tell us about a particular failure, maybe, and what you've learned from that, in order, taking risks, because that is the hardest thing sometimes to leave him and
Yes.
the outcome?
Yeah, I think, I mean, what I do is I set myself, I'm a deadline person. So I always give myself a time scale on something. And I think that really helps me in terms of, there's a saying, fail fast to succeed quicker. I will be going somewhere and I'll fail lots to get there. And I don't mind that. So just say if my next role was to be a senior manager and I was a middle leader at that moment, I wouldn't mind not getting the promotions in the middle, because as long as I get there in the end, and I probably would try and give myself a sort of time scale around it. And so for me, those failures are the stepping stones, because each time I fail, I'll learn something, I'll get some feedback, I'll be better, and I'll keep doing it that way. So if I think about the driving, I said it took me 5 times. I did something quite crazy. What I did was I hadn't started driving lessons yet. I went in and ordered a brand new car. And so I had to pass. I had to pass. Do you see what I mean? So I kind of put pressure on myself. And so the failures in the middle don't matter, because it's about the end outcome. So I've done that quite a lot. If I talk about roles, I remember once I went for a role internally and didn't get it. And it was quite demoralizing, because I felt that everyone was looking at me thinking, oh, poor her, she didn't get the role. And it was something that I really wanted. So for me, I still was aiming for my goal, but I did have there is some time about licking your wounds. That's okay. It's all right to be down, but just not for too long. And for me, it is about recognizing it's just one step. It's definitely not the end. It's just one step in the journey to moving forward. Yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah, but I do put pressure on myself. I think I'm a pressure-prompted person, so it works for me to put pressure on in order to get there. Any other questions?
Shall we do some work?
Yeah, lovely.
You're going to stay with us, I think.
Yes,
Jenny.
absolutely. Thank you.
So let's say thank you to Jenny for
Thank you.